Hello and welcome to In the Dot. Today's conversation is around something that has been in the media for at least the last couple of weeks, and it all has to do with traffic stops. Of course, we all saw it unfold, a traffic stop that turned deadly, and another one involving a member of the military who decided to drive to a lighted area for his own safety. So today we are joined with Captain Brittany Pruitt from the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department to talk about really what your rights are, what to expect if you are ever pulled over by the police. And thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you.
I guess the first question, of course, is if you see those lights and hear the siren behind you, what should be your first step as a driver?
Yeah, and so that's kind of been the topic of conversation is, what do you do when you see those lights and sirens? Am I supposed to pull over? Am I supposed to wait, or can I wait until a well-lit area, a gas station, my driveway? So that's been a topic of conversation a lot lately. And by law, if you see lights and sirens behind you, you are required to pull over immediately to the right. And this is done for, by the officers choosing. They choose where they want that traffic stop to be conducted at. And so when an officer does, turn the lights and sirens on, we are asking that person to stop right then and there. It's for our safety, but it's also for that individual's safety. So, and if a person does not stop, they can be cited as well.
And that's interesting that you say that, because I will say, as an African-American mom, I have had this conversation with my own kids, and I will be very honest with you. I have told them I don't want them pulling over when it's pitch dark, or I want them to go someplace where there will be people that could see it, or there are lights. But you're saying I'm actually having the wrong conversation with my kids.
Yeah, so we are telling people that, there's a reason that we turn our lights and sirens on where we do. We want that person to pull over, for their safety and ours. We want to be seen by other vehicles that are approaching. But also, if a person does not stop, car stops are one of the most dangerous things for officers to conduct. And so it's a lot of the unknown. I don't know who I'm pulling over. I don't know what kind of vehicle or who I'm approaching on this car stop. So when a person refuses to stop, or what we think refuses to stop, and keeps driving to a location that they choose, it makes that officer's anxiety level go high. And so because we don't know what that person's, are they trying to hide something? Are they reaching for a weapon that could potentially harm us and others? And so there's a lot of unknowns that we are doing when we're conducting a traffic stop. And so, an officer's anxiety level is already elevated a little bit during traffic stops, but when a person refuses to stop, that just makes it go a lot higher.
So from the get-go, you're making that situation worse. Can you walk us through what exactly takes place? We're now pulled over. Police officer is now walking up to my vehicle. What should someone expect next? Yeah,
so an officer can either walk up on the driver's side or the passenger side. It's of the officer's choosing. Sometimes that's because of an officer safety issue, not walking into oncoming traffic. And so they'll walk up to either side. They're going to approach you. What our officers like and what we like to see is the hands. Leave your hands on the steering wheel, on the dashboard, to where the officer can see them. Another great thing to do is turn on your headlamp if it's at night. That way it illuminates the inside of the vehicle, especially as if there's passengers inside your vehicle that we cannot see. Dark tinted windows at night, it makes it a lot more difficult for the officer to see. So turn that headlamp on. When the officer approaches, keep the hands on the steering wheel. The officer will probably introduce themselves, say, "This is why I pulled you over." And then at that point in time, they're probably going to ask for your license and insurance or registration. At that point in time, then I would suggest that you say, well, I'm going to reach for my driver's license here, or reach for my insurance card here. We always tell people to make sure they keep that readily available. Sometimes they hide them in a glove box and can't find them for several minutes, or, but it's just making sure you know where your documentation is at all time before you get into your vehicle. So once the officer does get your driver's license and insurance, they're going to walk back to their vehicle, or potentially stand right outside that vehicle, check for registration, check your driver's license, and then either write a citation, write a warning ticket, whatever that may be. So they can expect a car stop to last just a few minutes, depending on what how busy we are, what the dispatchers, what we're waiting on. So that's kind of what you can expect. But I will say that, when the officer is conducting, their checks, or either back in the vehicle or standing outside, just maintain your composure, keep your hands, don't be rummaging through your vehicle like you're looking for something, because unfortunately we don't know what's inside somebody's vehicle. We don't know what somebody has or what their intentions may be.
So and I can't think if it's really the news that I've seen this or if it's more movies, but there's times where officers could order you out of a vehicle. Legally, what is somebody's rights? Do they have to get out?
Yes. So when an officer pulls you over, they do have a legal right to ask you to step out of the car. You know, that could be safety for yourself or it could be safety for the officer. But if an officer does order you out of the vehicle, you are required by law to step out of that vehicle. You know, and we tell people this, you know, if there's concerns of, you know, why you were pulled over or actions of the officer during the traffic stop, you know, there are things after the fact, after the car stop that can be done, you know, places that you can make complaints in regards to this. But during a traffic stop, you know, listen to the officer's orders, listen to the commands, and then after the fact, then that's when you can either pursue it in court if you're wanting to fight the reason for the stop or the actions of the officer.
And I want to come back to that subject in just a second, but I do want to also touch on the fact that, you know, now anybody over the age of 21 can carry a weapon in their vehicle, permit or no permit. Does that person have to tell you that there is a weapon in the vehicle?
Technically, no, they do not have to tell us. But I will say that for an officer safety standpoint, you know, we want to know where that weapon is, just because it is an officer safety concern. You know, I don't want an officer to be able to see it and then, you know, it spook them or something, you know, escalate because they see the weapon and that person didn't tell them. You know, is there a reason why that person didn't tell the officer? So it's always a good thing to tell the officer.
Okay. And I want to go back to what we were just kind of talking about, the things that you can do even afterwards or maybe even during. We see a lot of times now people are reaching for their cell phone, they're turning on their cameras, they're making phone calls. From an officer standpoint, I take it you're okay with that because we're in our legal rights to do that, correct?
You are in your legal rights. I would just say that, you know, we are conducting a traffic stop. You know, we are asking for your attention during that point in time. You are legally, it's in your right to record that. Know that we're also recording it with body-worn cameras. So every officer within the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department now does have a body-worn camera, but then they also have cameras that are also in the vehicles as well. So that's also something that we can utilize. But they do have a legal right to record us. You know, we ask that, you know, if you are calling somebody on the cell phone, not to ask your friends and family to come on the car stop with you, you know, or to come check up on you, just because that does raise officers' awareness as well if you're having to deal with multiple people on a traffic stop when you're trying to focus on the task at hand.
Thank you so much. And we should also mention that if you have an iPhone, Siri does offer a new feature called Hey Siri, I'm getting pulled over. This will automatically start recording and it will also contact some of the people in your contact list that you have designated to be reached out to if you were pulled over by the police department. Captain Pruitt, once again, thank you so much for all of the great information. And until next time, we ask you to stay safe.